Hi guys, so in this video here I'm going to be talking with you guys about how we are going to use Sante's rule to help us determine what our initial KVPs that we're going to be using are when we get ready to take x-rays. So as you guys saw in the handout, we're going to be using a pretty simple formula here. So Sante is going to tell us that if we're doing something that is under 10 centimeters, our equation is going to be 2 times the thickness in centimeters. That centimeters is really critical. All of our measurements have to be done in centimeters. And then we are going to be adding 40 to it. And that is going to give us our initial KVP for anything under 10 centimeters. So this is going to be, a lot of your extremities are going to be under 10 centimeters. A lot of your cats are going to be under 10 centimeters. This is the formula that you'll be using. So for this one, let's say we are doing one of those cat legs or something that measures 4 centimeters. So in order for us to do this math or this calculation, we just really have to plug it in and then do the math. So we're going to take 2 times the centimeters in thickness, which was 4. Then we're going to add 40 to it. And then we just really have to do the math here. So here we're going to get 48 as our KVP. Now, one thing we haven't talked quite yet about is where this number 40 is coming from. That's something that's coming from our source image distance or our focal film distance. We'll talk more about that later in the semester. But basically, it's how far away is the x-ray tube where our x-rays are being produced from the film. And we always want that to be a standard 40 when we're using our small animal radiograph machine inside. So just accept that as a standard. It can adjust and it can change. We have to use 40, otherwise Sante's rule here is not going to be working for us. So what do we do for Sante now if something is over 10 centimeters? And we have a lot of things over 10 centimeters in our profession. Most of our abdomens, thoraxes, any dog, pretty much going to be over 10 centimeters unless it's one of our little guys. So same type rule here. We're going to take 2 times the thickness in centimeters. We're still going to add that 40 to it. And then we have to add something called the grid factor. So that grid factor is given to you by your manufacturer. It's going to be different for each machine. The ones we have at MATC are 8, so you can just memorize that number for MATC. What is a grid? Is something we're going to talk about in another few weeks. So for that, I'm just going to want you guys to accept that it exists. I'll explain it more when we get there. So for this one, let's say we did something that measured 12 centimeters. So we got to do the math again for this. So we're going to take 2 times the centimeters in thickness, which in this case was 12. We're going to add 40, which is taking into account our source image distance. And then we're going to add 8, which is taking into account our grid. We need to increase our x-ray force when we're shooting through a grid. So for here, we just have to go and do the math again. So we have 24 plus 40 plus 8. We can do them in your head or plug them into a calculator, and you guys should come up with 72 as your KVP to start with for your 12 centimeter object. Now we're going to be working with Sante's rule in lab, where we're going to be doing measurements with calipers, but this is how you're always going to figure out that initial KVP. All you need is a caliper to do your measurement with.